revenues less expenses, we're pretty good at forecasting what our revenue will be like, and that's a testament to Ron Sprints, and he keeps that 5-year model. And then the 2023 audit, we fully expect that to be done on or before 12/31, so we can really get all our data pipeline up to CDE. So let's look at what I like to call the unassigned fund balance. To me, this is the canary in the coal mine. This is what I look at as a CFO. This has served us very well. So forgive that El Paso's got a P instead of an O. But so beginning fund balance. So what is an unassigned fund balance? An unassigned fund balance is the unallocated funds that are sitting on our balance sheet that we keep our powder dry, because we know that when we budget, we have what's called known unknowns, right? It goes back to Robert McNamara and the Vietnam War. We know there are things that are going to happen we don't know about, and we're going to have to figure out how we pay for it. So if you look at how do we calculate the unassigned fund balance, we take our beginning fund balance, which is last year's ending year fund balance. We look at our actual revenues to date, actual expenses to date, and encumbrances. So encumbrances are monies we haven't yet sent out to pay, but we are committed. We've entered into a contract, or we've ordered materials. So when you do the math on that, our total fund balance unassigned, our total fund balance is almost $8 million. If we take away the estimated TABOR reserve that we're required by the state of Colorado to do of $5.8 million, that leaves an unassigned fund balance of $2.2 million. So I want you to just think of something. Rule of thumb from the GFOA, which is the Government Financial Officers Association, says that unassigned fund balance should be somewhere between 10 to 20% of either revenues or expenditures. So if you just do revenues minus expenditures, should be zero when we run a balanced budget. So if we look at just the quick arithmetic, if you have 147 million projected, 10% of that is 14.7 million. So that means that our unassigned fund balance should really have about 14 to 15 million in there. We only have 2.2. Nothing to get nervous about, right? I didn't say this that we're not operating properly, because we are, but in a district where it's like, let's allocate all our monies and give as much to teachers, we're running pretty thin in terms of managing our known unknowns. So what I would like to propose, and if the superintendent agrees to it, is over time, like over the next 5 years, I'd like to start walking this balance up a little bit. The trade-off is it takes money out of our general fund, but we have low interest rates. We're in a higher interest rate environment. As we pay down our debt, we should be okay in adding a little bit of money. I'd like to see that get up to 10 million between now and the next 5 years. And then we also have our TABOR reserve. But remember, when we use TABOR reserve, we need to get permission from the board. So if we go to the next slide, now that's really small numbers, but that's the best I could do in looking at the fund summary. If you look at the first line of revenues, hold on, I know it's going to be that, right here. So, because I know we have community members here, I always look at the general fund. And the reason is by the time we get to this time of the year, the grants fund, the certificates of participation, repayment, capital reserve, health insurance fund, that's pretty much baked in. There's not a lot of wiggle room there. We can't reallocate from those funds into other funds. It's really the general fund that we can make kind of reallocations of monies to meet challenges or to deal with spending deficiencies if we needed to. If we had, if in individualized education we're a couple $100,000 short, we'd look to the general fund and try to figure out of that 2.2 million, how do we fill that gap. So we don't, it's really hard to truncate programs in the middle of the year. You just can't do it. So I show you this because in a way this is very good to look at with between our original budget and our current budget and year-to-date actuals, right? So when we look at where we are in the spend on the quarter, if we go to the next slide, the year-to-date variance analysis, this is kind of just to check the health of where we are. So the general fund, we have a negative 3.5 million, and you'd be like, gee, the grants fund, we got a negative 2.1 million. We got, the capital reserve is a negative 4. What's going on here? School districts front load spending in that first quarter, right? We're ordering supplies, there's teacher needs and everything. So the difference, not to worry, is on Fund 10, the reason that will go positive is when we get our tax collection, so that's really just a timing issue. Fund 22, which is grants, that's reimbursements, so that's a timing issue there. And then Fund 49, we already have that collected. It sits in that fund, and that's really to address a lot of our capital projects needs that Dr. Fletcher oversees. Okay, so that's that. The major takeaway is we're looking really good on our quarterly financials. I'm not worried. Superintendent isn't worried. Our cash is being managed extremely well. It's being allocated appropriately, and there's no surprises there. Let's go to even better news.